Hi friends, welcome back to Ral's Rising. If you are new here, my name is Katie and today I'm sharing with you a meal prep video. We have lots of tasty recipes in this video to share with you today. You can find some of them written down below in this video's description. We're going to be making Einkorn Pancakes. One of the subscribers that I have here on my channel, her name is Kylie. Kylie sent me some beautiful einkorn berries to mill in Margaret the Mill. Margaret the Mill was given to me by another subscriber and it has gotten so much use in our home and I'm happy to share all of that with you today. So we're gonna mill some einkorn berries for some einkorn pancakes. We're gonna be making some lilac lemonade and we're packing for a homeschool co-op picnic. So there's gonna be all kinds of tasty treats in this video, some gluten-free items, dairy-free items, as well as all the other good things in between. So I hope you stick around. I hope you love this video. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button, give this video a like, that's a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. What do you think of the foods in this video? I'm so happy to have you here today. Let's dive into this video. First thing I'm going to do is pop these einkorn berries into a jar because I'm not going to use this whole bag today. I'm only going to grind up a portion of it. So to store it for longer term, I'm just putting it in this glass mason jar and I'm going to pop a lid on it and stick it in the pantry. Then what I'm going to do is grind up 2 cups of einkorn berries because I need 1.5 cups einkorn flour, but I'm going to double the recipe. So for this recipe, I'm grinding up 2 cups and that's going to give me 3 cups of einkorn flour. I'm using this mill here and I will leave a link down below if you are interested in getting yourself a grain mill. I will link one that is similar to mine as well as this Como grain mill. This is a Como Fitibus Classic is what I'm using and it is amazing for my large family to grind up wheat, lentils. You can grind up all sorts of things in this mill. It has a variety of settings, as you can see on the front. That silver portion right there shows you fine grind to a coarser grind, so you can grind up your corn for cornmeal, to make your cornbread. So we are going to start out measuring 3 cups of einkorn flour into my mixing bowl. This is my first time ever cooking with einkorn. And pancakes is a relatively easy beginner recipe to dip your toes into a new grain. So that's what we're working with today. For this doubled recipe, I'm going to be adding 4 tablespoons of sugar. Next, I'm going to be adding 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'm using the non-aluminum baking powder. I'm also going to be adding 1/2 teaspoon of Redmond's real salt. I have a link for Redmond's real salt. You can get 10% off with my link down below in this video's description. I'm going to mix all the dry ingredients first just so that they are evenly incorporated, and I am using a Dutch dough whisk. I'm going to mix up all of my wet ingredients, and that is going to be 4 large eggs for this recipe. I'm going to be using 2 cups of milk. I use a conventional kind of milk for the first cup, and then I'm going to finish off with a little bit of our raw milk for this recipe. You can use whatever you have. I'm using whole fat milk. You can use 2%, 1% fat-free. Whatever you have on hand is going to work just fine. This needs to be whipped up with an electric mixer or by hand if you have a good whisking hand to do that. When it comes time to mixing your wet ingredients with your dry ingredients, this recipe does recommend that you mix them gently. You do not want to overmix. If you overmix, that will start to form gluten in your pancake batter, which will make your pancakes tough. They will not be light and fluffy, they will be dense and tough. So I'm just gonna mix this until just incorporated, and then I'm gonna add my 8 tablespoons of butter. Again, if you are doing the standard recipe, you would have that and do 4 tablespoons of butter. Gently mix all of those ingredients in, and while this is being mixed up, my griddle is preheating. You want to make sure you have a nice hot surface. medium to medium high if you're using a cast iron griddle. Typically I start out with medium high and I turn it down to medium because the cast iron holds heat so well. You do not want these pancakes to burn. I'm smearing a bit of bacon grease on top of my griddle. You can use whatever fat you have to prevent your pancakes from sticking. And I'm using a 1/4 cup ladle to ladle this on to my griddle. So probably between 1/8 of a cup for each pancake is working out really well because I'm using half of my ladle. And these are going to cook until you can see bubbles on top. And once there's a uniform amount of bubbles on top of your pancakes, then you know that they are cooked well enough to be flipped. I was surprised at how quickly these pancakes filled up my kids, so I had quite a few pancakes left over. You can freeze those in the freezer or stick in an airtight container in your refrigerator for a few days. If I freeze them, what I like to do is place them in a single layer on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, and then I freeze them up and store them for a longer term. Next up, I'm going to be making myself a breakfast real quickly. The kids' pancakes I didn't show, but I topped them with elderberry syrup and butter. They really enjoyed that. It was a tasty, tasty treat, and they had some frozen blueberries on the side. So for my breakfast this morning, I'm starting out with the bok choy ends, cooking those up a little bit first by sauteing them in some bacon grease. Then I'm going on top of those with some cubed up sweet potatoes that I cooked the other day. This is a typical breakfast for me. I do some variation of this, either with rice or without rice. On this day, I'm adding ground beef. I either will or will not add sweet potatoes. It just kind of depends, but it's typically in an egg scramble of some sort with similar ingredients to this. So I am adding 5 eggs as well. I realize that eating this way has helped me have longer periods between meals. It really sustains me. I'm not eating quick carbs or things that digest really fast, so I'm not hungry a lot throughout the day. I have my huge brunch, and that sustains me for most of the day. For dinner, I might have a bowl of rice, meat, and a side veg or some fruit on the side. So my menu for myself personally is really limited, and Aaron is similar. He's even more limited. When we went out of town, we did eat kind of off of our diets. I remained gluten-free and dairy-free, but I had corn tortillas and a variety of other things that I don't typically eat. But hey, it was vacation, so that's okay. It didn't cause me too much inflammation and pain, so that was amazing. I'm also adding some onion powder and some red chili flakes to this scramble. And I'm going to get it all cooked up with these eggs. I throw a lid on top just to make sure it's all the way cooked through. And then I throw it in a bowl and gobble it up. And yes, I eat this huge skillet full of food. And yes, it does sustain me until dinner time. Sometimes I'm hungry for dinner. Sometimes I don't eat dinner. And then I'll eat the same thing or something similar the following day. I'm just telling you guys this and sharing my experience because if you are struggling with your food, this is what works for me and keeps me sustained and fulfilled. It's a huge bowl with a little bit left over. After breakfast, I cooked up a whole bunch of bacon, so I'm making the kids sandwiches with a big block of cheese that I sliced up. We've got ham, turkey, tomatoes, lettuce, bacon, mayonnaise, homemade bread. And this was my club sandwich that I made, or not mine, but the club sandwich recipe that I made for the kids. So good. Next up, we're making lilac lemonade, and we start out with fresh lilac flowers that we got from our friend Penny's lilac bush. And we're just taking them off of the main stem. So we're just breaking off the clusters, throwing them into the jar. I added some water. I shook up the jar to get them somewhat clean and remove some of the bugs, and strained them in a sieve, rinsed them with some water, and then put them back into the jar. Next, I filled the jar with water, and I probably did about 8 clusters of flowers because I'm making a double batch of this recipe. So 8 clusters of flowers in a in a half-gallon mason jar filled with water. Then into 2 half-gallon mason jars, I add 1 cup of sugar to each mason jar. That's what the recipe called for. However, I did 3/4 of a cup to each mason jar of organic cane sugar. I added a few cups of hot water to make a simple syrup inside of each one of those jars. You can do this on the stove top, or you can go ahead and mix them right into your glass jars. I also do 1/2 cup of lemon juice. Now, if you use fresh lemons, you're gonna want about 1.5 cups of fresh squeezed lemon juice, but since I'm using bottled lemon juice, it is a little bit more concentrated. So I am using just 1/2 cup of that, and that was enough for each 1/2 gallon. Give that a nice stir to get all of the ingredients incorporated. Next, I'm going to divide up this 1/2 gallon of lilac water between the 2 jars. So we're doing about 1/4 of lilac water per 1/2 gallon of lemonade. And to that, we are going to be adding some ice to get it cooled down so that the kids can drink it up now. I'm also going to enjoy some of this over some ice. It was so tasty. It's lemonade with a floral twist. It's really good for parasites in the gut. It's excellent for your immune system. It gives you a nice boost. There are many benefits to lilacs and to consuming the water from lilacs, so I encourage you to look that up and go out and forage some lilacs. I know around here, so many people and parts of the county and parts of the city, they grow lilac bushes, so they're all around for everyone to pick from. They're in a variety of colors, or they come in a variety of colors. You've got just so many beautiful blooms, and they smell amazing. All right, this is the cookies. Cookies. This is a gluten-free chocolate chip cookie mix. I'm still not on the gluten-free baking bandwagon yet, and I scored a whole bunch of these types of mixes on sale at my Fred Meyer's. So to make these, I am adding a teaspoon of vanilla extract for each bag. So two teaspoons of that. I'm doing 2 tablespoons of water to this, and 1/4 cup of oil per bag. So I'm going to use 1/2 cup of oil for these cookies, and 2 eggs. I'm going to mix these up, but oh my goodness, I made a huge mess. I splashed out the water and the vanilla extract when I started mixing too vigorously in the beginning. So start out gently, get that mixed up, and you do not want to over mix these cookies. So I am just barely going to get all of the ingredients incorporated. It's going to appear to be somewhat of a dry mix, but that's okay. I'm going to pack it in my cookie scoop and get it scooped out onto parchment paper to bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. I hope to share some homemade, made from scratch gluten-free recipes with you all in the future. Just got to get all my ingredients acquired. When you're baking with gluten-free ingredients, it does require some interesting ingredients that I've never really used before, so I've got to get those into my pantry so that I can make things from scratch. But right now it's been so convenient to have these for treats on the fly when I'm going to a homeschool event, or for instance on this particular day we are going to the end of the year homeschool co-op picnic. And I know that there's going to be a beautiful cake that one of my friends is making. So she's making a homemade cake that is not going to be gluten-free or dairy-free. So for the mamas at the picnic that are gluten-free, dairy-free, I'm making up these treats as well. We're going to have some hummus, some veggie spread, and a variety of other things that I'm going to share with you the recipes as we go along through this video. So these are going to bake, like I said, 350 degrees for about 11 minutes, and they're going to come out beautiful. They are delicious. They worked out really well. I do have some brownie packs of gluten-free mix. The last time I tried to make the brownies was a big fail. I don't know if I just added too much oil to the brownies, but I ruined them. They were, I don't know what I did, you all, but how can you ruin a box mix of gluten-free brownie mix? I don't know, but your girl found a way to do it, and I did it. Next up, we are going to make some veggie dip, and you can do the same thing with a ranch dip. I have the buttermilk ranch powder as well, and I forgot to record that for you all, but I'm going to link them both down below in this video's description. The mixes are from Azure Standard. This is the veggie dip mix, sorry. So you do 1 tablespoon of veggie dip mix to 8 ounces of sour cream. Give it a good mix and then let it sit for about an hour in the refrigerator so that all of the veggies can absorb most of the moisture in the sour cream so that they soften up, and it thickens up the sour cream quite a bit, so it's a nice thick dip or spread that you can put on toast or bagels, whatever you like. It's really tasty. So I'm mixing this up in the container that it came with. This is cultured sour cream, Nancy's cultured sour cream that I order in bulk, or at least in a bulk pack. It comes with 6 containers of this sour cream. I order that every month from Azure. Then I'm going to spread it in my glass container. I'm going to put on the airtight lid and vacuum seal this, pop it in the fridge, and it will be ready when it comes time for the picnic. Next up, we're going to make some hummus, and I don't have any tahini, so I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of white sesame seeds to the bottom of my Vitamix blender so that those get blitzed up really well when I add all the rest of the ingredients. I'm doing about 4 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to add in, let's see how many, 2 heavy-handed tablespoons of lemon juice from my concentrated lemon juice. And you can use fresh squeezed lemons. You're probably going to want to use about 2 tablespoons per can of beans, garbanzo beans, that you're going to be using for your hummus. I am adding 2 cloves of garlic because I'm doubling this recipe, and 2 cans of garbanzo beans, or chickpeas as some people call them. We're gonna blitz this up in the blender. I have not added the salt or the cumin powder yet. I probably should have, but give me a minute, I'll remember. Sometimes when I get in the act of making things, I forget to do that. So I'm also adding a little bit more olive oil. So use that to your discretion. You can add more or less olive oil if you need to. I'm adding 1/4 teaspoon cumin to this, and then I'm gonna add about 1/2 to a whole teaspoon of salt for this. So I am doubling it for the picnic. So we have a portion for the picnic, and then we're gonna keep one of them back home for another day to eat on another day. When you use your Vitamix to mix this up, you want to get it mixed up quickly, otherwise it will get too hot. The Vitamix, once it runs for a little while, it does warm the food inside. That's why you can make soups in your Vitamix. So I'm using the plunger to get everything incorporated and mixed up as quickly as I can. And I was doing that on high power. High power level 10. We're gonna scrape everything off and try to get as much of this hummus out of this blender as we possibly can. Once I get it into the container, I'm gonna put a bit of olive oil on top and garnish it with some smoked paprika. You can use regular paprika as well. However, I'm fresh out of plain paprika, so I'm going to be using the smoked version to garnish this. Just a little sprinkle on top, maybe 1/8 teaspoon sprinkled over the top will make it look pretty. And that's what we're going for, right? A lovely dish of hummus. It was a hit with all of the veggies that we took to the picnic. If you're curious about my airtight or my vacuum sealed containers, these are from Zwilling, and I will leave a link down below for you to check out there. The charger comes with a USB cord, so it's rechargeable, which I really like. We are going to be serving up a variety of vegetables. We're going to do sliced carrots, we're going to do some cucumbers, some yellow pepper, and broccoli.